We'll call a meeting to order. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum present. We'll note that Councillor Cunliffe is absent. We also have guests, Mark Zastry, and Paul Fripp joins. Thanks very much. You didn't drop Hockey Canada, I see.
Oh, I guess. Actually, that's an old card. I don't have those anymore.
Oh, really? That's all right. I used to wear that on my shirt, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. A motion to move into the closed agenda. Subject to motion. Okay, second, and it's subject to A, legal, and B, labor, section 90.1 C, D, G, I, K, and L, M, and N. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Oh, and we also have Joe here. Sorry, Joe. Okay, welcome to the December 5th council meeting. We have concluded our closed session of the meeting, and reporting out, council has resolved to approve the 2022 audited financial statements. So we're very pleased to get that finalized. So thank you. And we'll move to the adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Okay.
So change the order.
And we are going to, just before we adopt it, we will change the order to number 10, the reports under B and A3. We're going to move those to the front if that's acceptable, as we've got our guests here, Fire Chief and Emergency Coordinator. So if council's fine with that, we'll make that amendment.
10.3 and B1.
10A3 and 10B1. Those will get moved where? We'll move those right up under reports.
Just to be more specific. So moving item 10B1 to the first item. Presentation under section 10, followed by item A3. And then the rest of the sequence will follow that.
And those are both getting moved to the beginning of 10.
Section 10.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, folks, but you have no video feed. We're just getting, there we go. There we go. Thank you.
Oh, okay. We have a motion to approve the agenda with those amendments.
Any other amendments?
Any other amendments?
Yeah, I've got a couple of suggestions. Being cognizant of what was said earlier about some of the stuff we would like to get back to in the closed, time constrained. And the other things we've got coming up, I'd like to make a couple of suggestions. First of all, item 10A1, budget versus actual. I think we've all kind of come to the agreement that these are better done in the committee of the whole meetings, and we plan to be planning tonight for committee of the whole meetings potentially. So I'd suggest that get moved there where it's better suited. And then items 10C 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think all of these would be much more suited after we've done our indoctrination, wrong word, after we've done our onboarding workshops that are coming up. And likewise in a strategy session, I think those are better suited to that environment. And I think tonight we won't get through this agenda if we don't move those to more places.
Okay, any other amendments?
I would not support removing those items. I think they're very quick items. They can be dealt with very quickly and virtually line items. So would not see that. We just and we've had difficulty arranging our consultants meeting for it's now been pushed into January, so consistent with our process of pushing things along and not getting work done, I think it's consistent, it's important that we leave those items in.
So could we just have a reread from our corporate officer of what the amended agenda proposal looks like?
Yes, so the reordering such that item under section 10, that item 10B1 be moved to the first order of business, followed by 10A3, second order of business, and then the rest of the order remains intact. That item 10A1 be moved to a future committee of the whole agenda. And items 10C1, 2, 3, and 4 be moved to a yet to be determined other process. Whether it be strategy session or a meeting following the orientation workshop, a council meeting following the orientation workshop.
So thank you. I'll move that.
Second it.
Okay, discussion?
Okay, yes, I would oppose that on the basis of what I've just said. I would see going with all the original suggestions other than the removal of item 10C 1, 2, 3, and 4. So could I move that as an amendment to the
Sorry, which item? Motion? Which
I'd
item?
like to amend we currently have a motion.
Mhm.
I'm finding it very convoluted to move minutes this way. I think
We're not doing minutes.
agendas this way, pardon me.
So for clarity, it's from the corporate office.
Okay, can I comment?
Amendment?
Councillor Cunliffe will go and then Councillor Ritter, would you like to speak to the motion? And you've got an amendment on the table. We'll go to the corporate officer, but
So with respect to the question, no, that's not a friendly amendment, so that cannot amend the motion on the table.
okay.
And
So
so
no, Councillor Cunliffe?
I would say that nothing is quick in line items in the experience that I've had sitting on this council since the by-election. I would agree with Councillor Abbott that these would be better addressed after our education. And we don't have a council meeting for the rest of December, so pushing this until that time, such as a date in January, makes sense. We do have some significant things to get through back and closed, so I'm in favor of the amended agenda.
Okay, Councillor Ritter, you've made the motion, so you've already spoke to it? Or would you like to speak?
No, I haven't made the motion. If I need to speak to it, I'll let you know. If you want to speak to it, feel free.
Okay, I'll speak to it. These were my motions put forward. They were put forward from recommendations from our provincial advisors and the Inspector of Municipal Affairs. They've written multiple letters, and the letter is actually the one letter which references 2 or 3 other letters, because I've corresponded with them at least a half a dozen times since November of 2022. These are straightforward. Our provincial advisor, when he left, he gave us a report dated August 30th. And as I say, there's about at least 4 to 6 letters that support these recommendations. These are straightforward now that we have a CAO in place. So these recommendations, I'm surprised that my fellow colleagues see these as difficult, because to me, they're very straightforward. They're right out of the letters of the provincial advisors. They're the best practices, recommendations. So I'm shocked that this is something that's going to be difficult. And I think that you're doing an injustice to this village by not getting behind our CAO and adopting the best practices of the provincial advisors. And I encourage the whole village to read those letters and read the recommendations. I'll call the question. All those in favor of amending the agenda?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Could I have my opposition noted, please?
My opposition as well. Okay, we'll move right to public participation. Anyone in the gallery like to participate? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors, yes. My name is Mike Porter. I'm from Brunswick area. We've heard a lot over the past while about volunteers being important to our Lions Bay community. I'm here tonight to recognize for volunteers for their service. Lions Bay Historical Society, which has been led by Tony Cox for several decades now, has seen significant change recently. 4 volunteers left within the past few weeks, bringing their service with the society to an end after what I estimate is a combined 75 years of service to the community. The volunteers that are leaving are Arlene Holstrom, Christine Silzer, Trudy Luthi, and Wendy Mayer, who have dedicated their time to this village. These ladies have earned, in my opinion, our significant thanks for their contributions to and support of the village of Lions Bay. If I might suggest, if you happen to see one or all of these ladies, please express your personal thanks to them. Thank you.
Raise matters that.
Thank you.
Mayor, councilors, my name is Doug Pollock. I have a few things to say tonight. To start off by saying I've been a resident of this village for more than 50 years. Not sure that that's relevant, but I would like to point that out. I have written some notes because I think it's important I keep myself on track. I'll just sort of read this and maybe ad lib comes appropriate to do. But it starts off with saying, for some time now, I have kept silent with regard to how council is functioning. However, the time has come to speak out. And that's about what I'm going to do. Council was elected to serve the residents of Lions Bay, to make the best decisions possible on our behalf, your electors. My opinion is this is not happening. In order to function as a council, a certain amount of give and take is required in order to move forward for the greater good, for the community, for everyone who lives here. We're counting on you. We sometimes have to come up compromise. At the end of the day, if we do not move forward and get things done, we all fail. Each and every one of us fail. If you fail, we fail. Our community fails. The people who come after us fail. Our kids fail. Not a good thing. I suggest that we all put our personal agendas aside and concentrate with the job at hand. That's what you're here for. That's why you're elected. That's why you gave your time, your energy to serve us, the community. You represent us. We're counting on you. And it's depressing in some ways to feel that what we're counting on is not occurring. And I don't know what to say with regard to that, because I don't want to be critical. I'm speaking to council as a whole. I'm not picking on anyone in particular. I think if there's fault to be found, there's lots of it to spread around, I'm sure. That's really all I have to say. I'll summarize it. We're counting on you. Please do what you're here to do. Thank you.
Almost under the passion. Let's just get right into it. In reviewing tonight's agenda package, I found the following recommendation. It's found in, well, if you can track out changes and everything, in 10C reports, mayor and council, number 5, or letter I, Member Operational Authority. His recommendation was that all operational authority granted by council resolution be rescinded and defended, and then and that full operational authority be granted to the chief administrative officer. It's my opinion that the above recommendation is contrary to the community charter as described below. In the community charter, chapter 26, part 5, division 1, we're talking about council roles and responsibilities. The members of the municipal council, I'm quoting from the charter, the members of the community, members of the municipal council are the mayor and the councilors. That's part 1 and 3. The powers, duties, and functions of the municipality are to be exercised and excuse me, performed by its council, except as otherwise provided under this and or another act. And the council in exercising and performing its powers, duties, and functions is acting as governing body of the municipality. A council has all the necessary powers to do anything incidental or conducive to the exercise or performance of any power, duty, function conferred on a council or municipality by this or any other enactment. I won't so pass over that one. The Local Government Act also clarifies things a little bit. In chapter 1, schedule, definitions, and other interpretation matters. The term local government means the council of the municipality. It is clear that the authority of a municipality is vested in the council. And I thought I didn't go over my. Do you want me to next slide?
Perhaps I can get our corporate officer to respond to that because I think that he played a role in writing that. So
Could I
Mr. Blackwell,
just prior, what community charter reference did you provide again?
sorry, I've asked Mr. Blackwell to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, your points are taken. This specific resolution refers to a resolution that exists on the books that granted operational authority, presumably on an interim basis, to enact the role of acting municipal administrator. So this is about reestablishing that span of control with the CAO. There was no CAO present at the time of that resolution. That said, the other piece that's important to sort of capture with respect to those legislative considerations is that there are two levels of government, there's two levels of functionality in local government. The council's role is at the policy level, not at the operational level. Staff are charged with responsibility of executing the direction of council at the operational. So there is that separation of roles and responsibilities. So this is referring to the operational direction only, not the governance at the table. That rests with council and remains, as you rightly point out, that's entrenched in statute. The resolution here does not in any way, shape, or form intend to remove any of that authority.
That was the issue that I was most concerned about. The authority of council would be possibly undermined. Like I do believe there's more than just policy, in as much as every council member here is also responsible to provide oversight as to what staff are doing. But that's one employee rule comes in. They're not supposed to be going and contacting everybody else. Council goes and talks to the CAO. But the oversight should be from council to the CAO, because the council is not happy with it. And that's what I want to be sure that there's no erosion of that.
Maybe I'll just help out too. The Coles Notes version on that was council voted 3-2 to appoint Marina as that go-to person. Now that we have a CAO, that motion is being rescinded to put the power back with the CAO. And as he mentioned, it's not for policies, it's for operations. So that's the long, it's maybe difficult to follow as a resident, but there was a resolution passed putting Marina in that position. Now that we have the CAO, it reverts back. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the gallery before we move online? Okay. Rebecca, if you'll unmute.
It looks like she's unmuted.
Rebecca, if you'd like to ask your comment, please.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Now we can hear you, yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, sorry. So in reviewing the agenda for tonight, I was quite surprised to see that there aren't any letters from residents. Surprised because this is the first time in this term that that's happened. So my question is, were there really no letters from residents, or were some letters suppressed? And if so, is this going to be the norm, that letters are no longer included in the agenda package?
I'll refer that to our corporate officer.
Thank you. Through you, I'll have to ask the deputy corporate officer whether you received any letters, because I'm not sure.
I have received one that's well.
So did all council hear that? So there was one piece of correspondence received. It was reviewed by staff. It was felt to, I'm going to put it delicately, not be suitable for the agenda. And so it was not included, but that was the only piece of correspondence received.
Okay, thank you.
Just, sorry, there was more correspondence than that sent to all of council.
Council did not forward me any
Okay.
other further info.
So there's the breakdown in the system.
Mhm.
It's forwarded to all of council. The mayor's then to forward it on to staff for inclusion. If he doesn't do it, or he's not around, someone else can. It's the way the policy reads at the moment. So we seem to have a breakdown in how policies function. We need to think about what do you.
You can take a look at it.
But the intention, to clarify, is that we are still including resident correspondence, just
Yes.
this time there was a breakdown.
Would seem that maybe there was a glitch in the process,
Okay,
but there's no change.
I think that's the message. That's the message that the residents would like to hear.
Any other questions before we move on? No, okay, with that, we'll move to the delegations. No delegations for this evening. Approval of prior minutes. We have motion to approve November 21st, 2023 minutes.
Moved.
Second. Okay, discussion. Any edits before we call a question? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Yeah.
Opposed, carried. Okay, business arising, nothing, unfinished.
I've got something under business arising. I note in the minutes that we have now moved to a model where we're recording each person who moves and seconds something. Frankly, I just don't see the point of that. Moved, seconded, sometimes three people are calling out at once. If it's moved and seconded, that's pretty banal. If we're gonna record anything as a default option, let's record who's opposed. But we really don't need to know who moved and seconded something. It's a waste of staff time to record it, and it's a waste of my time to read it.
Okay, corporate officer, I do know that the person moved, it generally speaks first to that motion. Any comments?
Thank you. Yeah, so it's standard practice that for the record that the mover and seconder is included in the resolution. It's for transparency. I can't comment on whether people are interested in reading that or not. It's not for me to weigh in on. All I can say is that that's what I would certainly recommend as a good way of doing business to ensure the integrity of the minutes. So too, with regard to matters that have come before council pertaining to being recorded as opposed, my preference that I would always suggest to council is that council be asked rather than assume or not otherwise be recorded as being opposed. Sometimes for individual reasons, councilors may want specifically to be identified. So we want to ensure that those checks and balances are in place.
So we're going to stick with this system here? I mean, we've never done this. We've always just had moved and seconded. What kind of transparency are we not adhering to if we don't show the move?
Okay, sorry, through the chair from now on, please, Councilor Ryder.
I think we've addressed this, so that you can assume that.
Just asking you to go through the chair so that we don't have a free for all, okay? Corporate officer.
So this is the purview of the corporate officer who is responsible for certifying the minutes. And as the corporate officer, that's the standard I'd like to see applied to minutes of council. I think it's good practice and it's a defensible practice. It's one that I would like to ensure that's adopted here.
Okay, thank you.
Got one other item under business arising on page 8. There was an action item for the CAO. Could we have that placed into the unfinished business log if it's not there already? And that was to bring back policy wording regarding the respectful workplace policy.
Is that not 316?
That would be under item, it's on the minutes, page 8 of the package. Under item 4, the CAO is to seek legal advice about incorporating into the policy wording that address complaints against the CAO.
They call number 316.
Is that in there already?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was just confirming if that's in there or not.
Page 32.
Very good. That's it for me.
Yeah, I have two visualizing on page 8. The revised purchasing policy, so we approved that it should be revised as we discussed, and then it's approved. But I assume it would still come back to us. At some point, we get to see the completed document with all the revisions.
Could defer to.
Yeah, Blackwell.
Sort of lost track of it. So if I wanted Joe.
Joe here. Joe, purchasing policy.
I can resend that, the amended version, incorporating all the comments that were discussed in the previous council meeting were adopted and. I can definitely send.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to see that thing in action.
Good. Thank you very much.
And then I had one other one, page 10. We also put on the action log the resolution that staff support the Lower Mainland LUMA union municipalities on the it's 44 Port Moody's resolution. Sorry, I should probably read that. It's commission resolution from Port Moody that needs to go on the log because that hasn't happened to my knowledge.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? All right, we'll move to item number 9, and that is follow-up action items, page 12. Item 293, Bayview Bridge. Mr. Burr, any follow-up?
I'll just stand up here and hopefully my voice will reach the microphone. So Bayview Bridge, for those who
I recognize the elements now. We have bolts left to attach. Break the threads so we don't come back up again. Millicap is going to be cleaning up the channel. Prior to fixing the trench. One more lock block to drop in place and it will be done.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay, in appreciation of trying to move forward through this agenda, we're going to ask if there's any items that the councilors would like to bring up. Otherwise, we'll move to approve. And or move to go to the next item. Is there any items the councilors would like to bring up out of this unfinished list, action item list?
Or staff, I presume.
Sorry, just more on a point of procedure. So item 313, which is not here, was removed. But it wasn't completed, and as you know, it wasn't completed until yesterday. This is the one about the map. So I think we should leave it until it's confirmed it's removed in the next meeting and then strike it, not take it off, because I think there's a few things that have fallen off because someone thought they were complete, but it may not have been. And that was a good example where it wasn't actually properly completed.
And what was that all about?
There was the one about the registration of the lands on the MPPA, and then BC Nature one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, any other items? Carl?
Items 310 and 311 have now been superseded by events in that community consultation is taking place external to staff effort. So I would request that 310 and 311 are removed from this list in favor of the process that's taking place independently.
Okay,
These items.
Mr. Blackwell.
I have no concerns if it's
And which process is that?
council's purview.
Task force review.
Student item 310. The task force and the connector.
Yes. Called a meeting that was distributed to council. Council decided not to put it out in the village update, so we sent it and dropped it off at
Sorry,
as many residents as possible.
When did council ever decide you cannot put something like that in the village update?
I don't recall that.
Corporate officer, did we send that in?
Council, I'll draw council's attention to an email of late last week with regard to a notice of a informal meeting pertaining to these what's referred to as task forces. Buried in one of those, I'm not sure which one is this matter before you.
I was out of the country.
It was distributed to council. I did it. I distributed it to council. I was sent back an email that said, according to the resolution passed, council must approve anything and everything that goes in the village update. I'm a little surprised because I don't get asked to approve other items, or perhaps it was you had sent it to me and it said council had to approve it.
Excuse me, did you ever bring it before council?
I did.
Approval?
I did.
I don't recall you bringing anything ever for approval.
Anything that's going in the village update,
Hmm.
you had asked, as did other council members, to distribute it to the council. It was distributed. The CAO came back.
Council? No,
Council, yes,
not by you.
yes, it was.
The way this works is any council member who wants to put something in the village update, distributes to
Mr.
council
Blackwell.
for approval.
On your behalf, I circulated it to council, given that it was a time sensitive matter or issue. The notion was that this is sort of what I would have expected, a very straightforward question. And council might have been minded to be nimble around that and make a decision. I think council's preference was that that request and requests like that come to the formal council table.
Which it has not thus far. Very clear.
I see I did miss an email from Mayor Barry. My apologies.
Can I speak to this?
Hey, did you get an email too?
I-
Just because I know I've been challenged by Councillor Reuter on whether he received an email.
No, there's a question whether.
I'm just asking the question. Did you receive an email from me? So you recall it?
The email you're talking about now?
Yes. On the task force.
Can I speak on this, please? Okay, the point is on the task force, yes, the point is two things in my mind. One, we agree the council needs to approve the email. It comes to council, we approve it, it can go out. We all agree. But in front of that, I replied to that email that I thought there was a better way to do this process. I pointed out that we've had great successes in the past with have your says, in responses in the hundreds. And what I believe council should do here is craft a have your say, where we've had, 3, 5, multiple hundred responses.
We're doing that.
Sorry, can I finish?
Mhm.
I asked that we craft a have your say. We send that out first. We get responses, and then we have a task force. That's what or whatever type committee we want, whatever meeting we feel like we need to have. That was my suggestion in that. I thought we'd get to discuss that at a council meeting to decide whether anyone agreed with me or wanted to go in the other direction. We've never discussed it. It hasn't come to the council meeting. We
Okay.
haven't made that decision yet.
Could I ask a question of our corporate officer? This notion of a task force, new creature for me. What is a task force and what's its rightful and proper place in our organization? How would it be organized? How is it constituted? Could we get some brief guidance on that?
Sure. So, I'll preface my comments by saying that no, let me jump in and I'll follow up the back end. So task force is something is a standing committee, is a select committee of council. They're typically referred to in the case of a mayor's task force as a mayor's task force, but they're established via the mayor through the council. But my understanding in speaking with Mayor Barry is that this is not intended to be a formal function, task force or town hall. I think that language has been used, but my sense is it's being used to replace. So a public engagement expert would not have used that language. So my recommendation to council is the bigger picture here is engagement, and I would counsel council to not sweat the details on this, but focus on the greater goal, which is whether or not council is minded to engage the community on this issue and not worry about the language, the nomenclature that's used to define what the meeting is. Otherwise, council is going to trip up on these opportunities. Is it a properly established task force as a select committee of council? No, but in my conversations with the mayor, it was not intended for that purpose. It was supposed to be a sort of an unofficial sort of engagement exercise. So on that basis, I would create that separation.
Councillor Bowden.
Yeah, these are non-decision-making groups, engagement, attempting to engage the community, inform the community, create interest in various situations. And picking up on former Mayor Pollock's comment, it's really imperative that we move forward with things and that we not talking about and argue about minutia and move the village forward. And if there's interest in the Lions Bay Connector, people will come forward, whether we do it by have your say or physical meeting or both. And I suggest that we do both. My interest is outcome and not arguing about outcome.
Okay, I'll just comment, but I know you've already gone, Councillor Abbott. As you mentioned, the idea behind this was to bring residents together. We've had a lot of outreach from residents that are interested in the highway noise, the parking, and now with the connector project, the TransLink. And there's a large sum of money there that could be deployed to valuable pathways or what have you in the village. And TransLink, from my meetings with TransLink, have said, we're flexible. We're not going to hold you to the bus shelter, the sidewalk to the bottom of Lions Bay, although I think that should be on the table and discussed with the residents. But there is also alternatives that TransLink has said, pathways throughout the village. They're very open, they're flexible, and we need to hear from the residents. So that's what I'm endeavoring to do, is bring people together We did this with the beach park. I called a task force when the staff at that time said, we can't handle it. We said, you know what, there's residents that are very hungry to help out. We did a task force and about 18 to 20 people showed up. Lots of great ideas were formulated. And then councilors stepped back and the residents started to lead that process. This is the same intention with these. So we now have highway noise. We've met once. We will do a have your say. We've had the parking. We've met once. We'll have your say. We're meeting tomorrow night here in the council chambers on the highway noise and safety and the parking. And the TransLink or the pathways options, sidewalk options, you know, it's called the connector project. That'll be, I believe it's the 11th. There's a little flyer out that's on the 11th, and that'll be in the gymnasium. We're hoping it's going to generate a huge interest. But I think Councillor Abbott brought up about have your say, and we're definitely going to do that. Okay. I had mentioned that earlier. I thought that was a fabulous suggestion. Let's run with it. So, you know, ideas are going to come from all around the village, and I think we need to encourage those. Councillor Abbott.
Sorry, 11th at 7 p.m.
11th at 7 p.m. in the Broughton Hall. Councillor Abbott?
Yeah, I do want us to move along. So just one final word on this. I would prefer that it comes to council, that we discuss it, we all agree on how to go forward, and then we go forward whatever we choose to do. The example of the beach park, that already had a have your say, that 150 responses. Granted a little while earlier. These drawings, this design, this estimate, that needs to go out to the greater residents. And I think we should have done it the other way around. But that being said, it starts at the council table with the initial discussion. These things aren't coming to the council table first. We find out about in the second hand. Last week, our voice got raised on a similar matter on this we hadn't been told about. Now there's a meeting tomorrow night that I didn't pick up on either. I don't know when I got told about. So let's just do it at the council table, please.
Okay. Any other items on the action list? Oh, okay. Move on. And I believe it is our guests. Agenda out. Okay, so we're under number 10 reports, and we're going to go right to our fire chief and the verbal emergency. We're going to emergency programs. Yeah, apologies, Phil Fulkerson. You're up. Fire chief. Sorry, chief. No problem. Number 2.
So thank you for this opportunity to present what's happening this year with regards to emergency management here.
Bill, do you want to join us at the table? The corporate officer is saying you're more than welcome to join us at the table.
They can hear a little better.
Sure.
Thank you.
So it's been a real busy year with regards to emergency management. Lot of changes. There's a 3-page report here, and I'll hit some of the highlights for you guys. But the Coles Notes version is that there's an ongoing multi-year edits to both the Act and regulations regarding emergency management under EMCR, so Emergency Management and Climate Readiness. The Act was launched in October, the beginning of October, and they've since passed 3 regulations as well too that are obviously pertain to the village and the village operations with regards to emergency management. So that leading up to that, I attended no less than 5 meetings with policymakers for the distinct reason that small communities' voices were not being heard with the policymakers that were making the changes. That became very evident after the first meeting that I attended. So I made it a priority to attend
most of these, the ones that I could attend, to speak directly to the policymakers that were making the changes to the act as well as the regulations. We now need to provide some feedback as well by the end of January on these regulations that have now passed. So I'll be on that in January as well too. So this took a lot of time this year. The other major thing that I've been doing is connecting us again. And I've been working on this for a year and a half, almost 2 years now, getting us linked in with Metro Vancouver, visiting neighboring communities. We've been over to Bowen Island a couple times now, speaking to them about their programs, and you'll see how that's going to benefit the village. We both the ESS director and myself have been up to Squamish to visit the emergency program coordinator there and their facilities. And the general idea is we continue to volunteer as well when neighboring communities are requiring personnel, both the ESS director and myself, with the idea that, when something happens here, we're going to be calling on our neighbors to come and help out. So this has been a real big push in the last year. So to jump right to this, I've got notes all over this as well, and we've got time. We haven't got a lot of time tonight, but the evacuation plan, one of the biggest outcomes of visiting Bowen Island was to reach out to their community-based neighborhood emergency response program. They call it NERP. It's exactly what I was looking to have with regards to having neighborhoods responsible for plugging into the evacuation plan. So there's a lot of responsibility put on the neighbors there in conjunction with the emergency program coordinator and ESS on how you put together neighborhood plans as well as personal plans. So they have agreed to come over in January. I need to nail down a date with the coordinators there and give just a town hall to talk about what their program is and how it's being led by the community for the neighborhoods themselves. So that's a great program there. I'm also working with RCMSAR and North Shore Emergency Management to evaluate and identify water-based evacuation areas along the Lions Bay shoreline. Apparently, there was a pretty comprehensive report done 6-7 years ago, I think, through North Shore Emergency Management, where they did assess the whole shoreline. Nobody can seem to find that report, so we're still trying to find that. And then once we do find the areas that were assessed in the Lions Bay area, I'll work with North Shore Emergency Management to make sure that those areas are still accessible. And what communities those might serve with regards to water-based evacuation. Planned exercises coming up. North Shore Emergency Management has been another organization that I've spent a lot of time reconnecting with and being a part of that conglomerate of North Shore agencies. They just started a committee again, an emergency readiness committee that stopped meeting over COVID. They had their first meeting a couple of weeks ago where I attended, and all of the agency representatives were there from fire, police, health, First Nations, and some of the emergency program coordinators from the North Shore as well too. So what they're looking to do is in June 2024 have an exercise, an evacuation exercise for all the North Shore. And again, the value of going to these meetings is to remind them that we are a small community and we are part of North Shore Emergency Management. And they hadn't considered how we would fit into that exercise. So I'm working with them to come up with an exercise where we can be included as well as Bowen Island in this type of exercise. So along those lines, what we're going to do is launch what we've got with regards to our evacuation plan in January after this town hall meeting with the Bowen Island representatives. And then we'll do a benchtop exercise here, a tabletop exercise in Lions Bay, just to work out any of the kinks so that we can then partake in this larger exercise in June in 2024. some more details are coming with that. They've hired a consultant and it's been funded through UBCM. So it's a fairly large thing. And I'm also reaching out to Metro Vancouver about that for funding as well. We might be able to get some funding through them. So that's that. The training, upcoming training here, Jeff Owens, who is the regional manager with EMCR out of the Southwest Freeoc, last year or the beginning of this year, had talked about being willing to come and talk to the elected officials as well as the CAO and myself. He had concerns that the new act hadn't been released yet, but it's now been released. And I spoke with him last Thursday, and he wants to come hopefully in January. I know you guys are working out your calendar for January. He'd like to come in January and have a session with us around the table to talk about your specific responsibilities out of the new act. So there's that. Mike Andrews, formerly of North Shore Emergency Management, has recommitted to come to Lions Bay and conduct emergency operations center training with staff and hopefully some new volunteers, if we can get some more volunteers coming. So that's lined up as well too. And then I'm working with North Shore Emergency Management. They're developing some emergency operations center training for volunteers. It's not meant to circumvent the Justice Institute EOC Essentials, but to more be an indoctrination for new volunteers. So I'm working with them on that as well too. Mutual aid agreements, again, just talking with everybody. With Metro Vancouver, I found out there was a mutual aid agreement with all communities, which was interesting. Grant from Metro Vancouver, when we spoke about that, he reiterated his commitment to Lions Bay should we have an emergency with regards to helping us with not only response, but also if we need help in our EOC. So we've got that commitment from Metro Vancouver again under this mutual aid agreement. The EPC and ESS director. So yeah, we visited Bowen Island, Squamish, Britannia Beach, North Shore Emergency Management. The other thing, I met the director of EMS, so that's BC Ambulance at North Shore Emergency Management last Thursday, and had a very brief but an icebreaker conversation with regards to the length of time that units are actually within the village. And I just sort of let him know that we've noticed that they haven't been here a lot, around 10% of the time. So he hasn't committed to anything. He's going to look into it, and I'll be following up with him again soon. So that was fairly important. I already spoke to you about North Shore Emergency Management and the committee there. Also, the Regional Emergency Planning Committee. So this is our EPC. This is a committee of Metro Vancouver emergency program coordinators, as well as agency representatives as well. I'm now co-chair on this committee. And again, I feel it's really important because not only do we get the pulse of what's going on within Metro Vancouver and the other EPCs, it helps me without having to recreate the wheel on programs and different procedures. There's a lot of sharing that goes on there, and it also allows me to bring the small community voice to the table with regards to planning. So it's been very good there. They're also, we have a subcommittee that's going to be releasing a report on last year's winter event and the transportation snafus that happened between all the different communities. So again, it's really good to have our fingers in that and be able to bring that back to the village. We already spoke about the new laws. The Lions Bay Emergency Program bylaw needs to be not only reviewed, I've reviewed it, it needs to be massively edited and overhauled based on the new act and the requirements under the act. When I went through the bylaw 2 weeks ago now, there's huge sections that are no longer applicable that need to be changed and updated. So that's something I saw on the agenda this CAO is possibly going to be reviewed. I'll make my suggestions under that. We can also get some recommendations, I think, from EMCR through the regional manager there when he comes to meet with us in January. The other thing that I found out, which was really big, and I was speaking to this about 6 months ago, and I've been doing a little more investigation and digging to develop an emergency plan, which the village actually has. We are required by law to conduct a formal risk assessment using their online tool. And it assesses against, I think, 52 or 53 different hazards identified by the province. To the best of my ability, I can't see that the village has ever done that. It's never been enforced by the province, but what was made very clear in these meetings with EMCR was that that's going to change now with the new act. They are going to be focusing more on ensuring that municipalities have conducted this risk assessment and that their emergency program or emergency response plan reflects the hazards identified in that hazard and risk assessment. So that's a significant undertaking. I've been speaking to several municipalities who have contracted, put out some RFPs and have selected contractors. It's a significant expense, multi-month process, requiring a lot of discussions, not only with the community and community staff, but also with First Nations. So we need to wrap our heads around that, but that's going to be a huge project coming this year. And then the subsequent new and revamping of the emergency program has got to be done following that. Lastly, BC wildfire. So I've had in the summertime there during the fires, BC wildfire, this southern region was in a couple calls with me along with the EMCR, where I brought up the issues of the increased foot traffic on above the village and the potential fire hazards that has potentially has. And they specifically requested raw data from trail counters. And essentially what they had said they would do, they do risk assessments for whole areas, not just the village. But they said that they would take that data and reassess the risk assessment for the area surrounding Lions Bay. And if we get a higher risk assessment, I don't know if we will or not, but if we do, then in theory, that releases more resources on a provincial basis for any sort of preventative measures. So I'm working on that as well too, and I'll be speaking with Carl about that as well. So that was ongoing. Alertable. I guess just along those lines, Mary and I will be having several initiatives. When we bring over the people from Bowen Island in January, we'll have a table there and we'll have a call for volunteers. Also push for signing up with Alertable. Currently, we've got 609 subscribers on. We're not sure how many of those are residents. Anybody can sign up for alerts from here. But I really think, we really want to try and get that up near the 1,000 mark. So we're going to continue to push it. It's been good. There's been really good growth on that. And there's some really good messaging coming out from the province on Alertable. So I'm really happy with the system. We just need to continue to push people to get signed up to that. And then just the volunteers. We really need some volunteers. We're at that point now where we have meaningful work for volunteers and we can put the work on some different things. It's taken a while to get to this point. And there's still a lot of work ahead of us, but there are a lot of things that we do need some volunteers with the EOC as well as with ESS. And on the ESS side, I don't think Mary's on the line there. She continues to North Shore Emergency Management and the ESS program provincially. We've got some really good mutual aid agreements in place with regards to suppliers and everything now. So she's been doing a really great job. She's also been coming with me when I visited Bowen Island as well as to Squamish. So these are on her own time right now. She is a volunteer, but she's committed quite a lot of time to the village in support of the ESS.
All right, Phil, that's quite a update. Thank you very much for that. Any questions?
A to Z, guys.
Councilor Broughton?
Once alertable, has the neighborhoods identified? Will that give us a better idea of if it's Lions Bay or not Lions Bay? I guess.
Yeah, well, and it's taken longer than I had hoped to get that uploaded. I've been working with the alertable people as well as a GIS person that I work with through my own company and to get what they need to do the geofencing around it apparently is a little bit of a lot there. So I'm really hoping that we can get that in there. And then when people sign up for their zone, then hopefully we'll have a little better idea as to numbers from each of the zones. Great.
Bill, on the wildfires, that trail counter data, I think it's been published. And certainly Carl could get it to you, but I think it's been published in our village update multiple times. And I'm just also wondering, what are you foreseeing or hoping would be the additional resources that might be made available?
I don't know I mean, I can't speak for BC Wildfire. They did mention in the call I had the deputy chief of the southern region was on the call with the MCR and there were a few other agencies on the call at the time. And they had indicated proactive things, you know, he didn't want to commit to it, but sometimes they have people walking the trails. But again, they're completely understaffed. So they spoke about that, dedicated resources for the area. I know that they assign their resources such as planes and people and that type of thing based on risk, right? So I think what they would do is look internally with the resources that they have and potentially assign more of it. So I really don't know. I just think anything more is a good thing. So I think they were a little surprised with some of the numbers that I had said to them. That kind of shocked them a little bit. And his words were that may significantly increase our risk assessment for the area around Lions Bay.
So just to be clear, the amount of numbers, then as that amount increases, then the inference is that the risk also increases proportionately.
I can't speak to their process, but that would make sense.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
That's the extent of my knowledge.
Yep.
You talked about the risk assessment and we need a consultant and any idea what the timing is and what the cost? Ballpark on that? You said it was going to be significant.
Yeah, I was in an IPREM meeting, so that's the integrated partnership between EMCR and Metro Vancouver. They had a meeting. It was last week, I think I was at, and that came up specifically with regards to the risk assessment. So they passed the law, but they haven't done the regulation on the risk assessment yet. Anyways, they were unsure of how it was going to be implemented. So I don't have any answers for you, except that I'm continuing to speak with the MCR to try and get a handle on it.
You did take a step in your report. You suggested we budget 30K.
Yeah, and then
the budget cycle's coming around real soon, so we need to put a number in there. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If there's nothing, then we get it wrong.
Yeah, so 30K was the first number I heard, and then I sat beside the EPC from the city of Delta, who said that they put it out to in an RFP, and their quotes ranged from 25,000 to 115,000.
We have 25,000 kind of soon.
So I'm hoping, you know, I'm thinking because we're smaller. But again, it's hard to say because the requirements for this new risk assessment requires a lot of consultation.
There's no grants available for this?
I'm unsure right now, right? But yes, whatever we can find through UBCM, any funding on that, we will go after it. And that's the same with any of the programs under the emergency program. There's tons of funding out there, which I kind of hope we have our grant writing committees available, because I haven't got the time to write these grants, but I can identify the ones when they come available for sure.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, a couple of really quick things, don't keep going too long. You spoke about staff training from EOC.
Yes.
There's a council role there as well?
No.
No?
And Jeff will, from EMCR, will make that very clear what council and mayor responsibilities are during an emergency.
Okay.
And it's very clear what your role is and what the role of the CAO is and what my role is.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Do you need volunteers to do it because we don't have enough staff? So you try to recruit volunteers before that?
Yes, and then backfill with people from Metro Vancouver if necessary. That's why I've worked on those relationships with Metro.
And I did give you the previous list we went out for volunteers a couple of years ago. Some of them might still come online if you tell them we've got our stuff together this time, right?
It's taken this long we don't want to have volunteers with nothing to do.
Oh,
That's a problem.
So
Meaningful things to do.
all the guys on the list.
So now we're ready, right? We've got things in place and we're really hitting the road with the rubber spinning now. And it's taken that long to sort of get a handle on.
One last thing, so as response to this new regulations around emergency planning, and you want to get something back by the 31st of January. We're going to need to have an EPC meeting to review that. Should we plan one for early January?
Possibly.
Mm.
I'm not even, I need to speak with the MCR again. They've already extended it once because they gave 3 weeks to review all this legislation, and through the emergency planning committee that I'm on, we pushed back and said that you can't expect us to answer in 3 weeks right in December. So we got an extension to the end of January. I'm gonna try and push, I think, again for another extension if possible, because it's pretty quick turnaround for review on regulations that really put a lot of responsibility on communities to do a lot of different things. So.
Okay.
All right, Phil.
So you have there's one last thing, Kevin.
Okay, one last one. And we're
Let's talk about a bylaw amendment here as well. So I think both of those two should start with the EPC being, get you some help. And then decide, understand the regulations, and then we can get going when we're having to change them, because the EPC is the bylaw.
All right, guys, we're gonna move it offline, the sidebar. Okay, thank you very much. Just to keep things moving. And Barrett Yermashide, Fire Chief, you'll come forward. That'd be great. Look forward to hearing from you. And you can come up to the table here, and then the mic will be able to pick you up a little better. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the way it goes, right? Yeah. All right, thank you for having me. I don't think I'll take as much time as a previous speaker, but going through, I'm just gonna talk about here we go. Daily operations, responses, Fire Smart, some of the projects that we've been working on, I've been working on in the fire department. So the biggest thing right now with us is, well, I shouldn't say the biggest thing. One of the things is staffing. I think you all know we're kind of a training department for prospective new recruits. We don't have the volunteer base, so we've marketed ourselves as kind of a training department. So we get trained members, trained firefighters straight out of firefighter school to come here and volunteer their time. And we invest in them, they protect our community, they get hired and move on. Right now, there's a whole bunch of hirings going on in career departments. So we're losing a lot of guys. For example, Vancouver's on track for hiring another 120 this year. They hired 120 last year, and they're going forward for over another 100 in the following year. Put that the numbers together. The Justice Institute of BC, which certifies these firefighters, they do 5 classes of 20 people. So they do 100 people. Vancouver takes them all, right? And then some. So our members going to school in Alberta and Texas, all of them. So with that, this is a problem. I go to Coast Corridor Fire Chiefs Association meetings. It's up and down well, the coastal corridor here. And it's common, like guys come in, they go, they come in, they go, they come in, they go. With regards to this, I've taken actions of putting hiring ads out in Pacific Info BC. I go out to the Justice Institute in Maple Ridge and I do class presentations there, trying to recruit people. But it is what it is. There's so many hirings and not enough people right now. So we're constantly hiring and struggling for men. So anything that the village can do, if we can get more homeowner members out, that'd be great. I canvass everybody I can, as well as making life easy. And I know there's been previous year cutting the for people with suites that have firefighters, they no longer pay the increase in utilities. As well as there's further talk. So what else we can do with regards to hiring? So right now we're sitting at 24 members. I want to be 30 to 35 at a minimum, just to kind of have a good core. Of those 24 members, 6 are homeowners, 18 are what we call the professional pre-recruits. And just going through here stuff I don't really need to talk about. Yeah, so hiring and retention, constantly hiring, constantly losing. It's a revolving door here, trying to keep our numbers up. With regards to when I moved into this role, there's a couple of shoes that I had to fill. Through provincial regulation, the fire chief now becomes the local assistant to the fire commissioner. With that, there's another course and certification and licensing that had to be done. So I went and picked those courses and I'm now certified as a local assistant to the fire commissioner. There's also a bunch of, like when I came into this role, I wanted to kind of define what needed to be done, kind of cross the T's, dot the I's, make sure that the legalities were looked after. One of those being the LAFC certification. Another one is commercial, public and multi-residential building inspections. Has to be done. It's never been done here to my recollection. Public education, formalizing mutual aid agreements. So with these, I've got an inspection program that's going to be starting in the spring of 24. I've sent out notice probably last March or April to all the applicable building owners that's going to be coming. Recently met with both Britannia and West Van to start talks to formalize the mutual aid agreements between the various departments. Going through rewriting and creating. When I came into this role, we had approximately 16 operational guidelines in the fire department. So there's a whole bunch of catching up and a whole bunch of writing of operational guidelines that needed to be done. So those were put through and not legally needed, but I think needed by the department was a values, vision and mission statement that we're currently working through right now. I've enrolled the help of the department and the members of varying different homeowners, new recruits and various different seniorities to come up with the values, vision and mission of our department. So when that comes out, it'll probably be by the end of the year. We're just finalizing the wording on it. So those are some of the things that I've been working on, trying to get formalized. The education part, we have visits with the elementary school every year. They come to the fire hall and we do an educational part with them. We set up a Fire Smart booth at the Firefighter Day ceremonies and starting into taking that document, the community wildland protection plan. I'm kind of all over the place here with fire smart regulations, taking that community wildland plan that was done prior and knocking off those things on the priorities on that. I got a company called Frontera to start doing our grant application for the UBC CRI resiliency grant. It's quite a process to go through. You need various consultants, both with BC Wildfire and Wild guys to come and do assessments. So they're doing that for us, and it looks like we're going to be receiving a fair sum of grant money, approximately $100,000 per year for 2024 and 2025. And that money will be spent on public education, a fire smart coordinator, some critical infrastructure, fire smart mitigation kind of things, trimming hedges back from buildings, thinning out the fuels around critical infrastructure, and then as well as some wildland firefighting equipment and training for the fire department. And with that, we always maintain our wildland firefighting training. Every year we train the entire department in the S100 wildland firefighting training, and they're all certified on that. So that's been done as well. With regards to moving on to responses this year, so far we're on track for approximately 130 responses to emergency incidents calls out this year. The majority being motor vehicle accidents at 34, medical calls 31, miscellaneous other calls 9, assists, wires down, burning complaints, all the other ones just kind of dwindle off. I throw out the MVA number as being really big because, well, I don't throw it out, it is what it is, but I talk about it because I quite often get the question, well, we're on the highway outside of our jurisdiction, what's it's costing us money to go here. The province of the BC, they fund that. As we're en route, they're very good. We call in, we've crossed the boundary of Lions Bay. As we're driving the fire truck down the highway, we're going to a motor vehicle accident somewhere out of our jurisdiction. Before we usually get to the accident, we'll have an EMBC number. It's like, okay, right away, here you go, here's your number. With those numbers, so far, they're slow in paying back from what I've talked to Joe about. We've gotten some money back, but we've built out over $17,000 of prevention money that's going to be coming back to us for those responses. The other, we've had, I think it was only 4 or 5 brush fires over the summer. With those, there is a possibility when, oh, sorry, I thought you were asking a question. With those, there's when it's on Crown land where BC Wildfire Service will reimburse if you get a task number from them. They're not so good at getting task numbers, and they're really good at denying coverage. So with them, we've been able to get some money, but it's been a challenge with coming back. So there's a bit of learning. They changed their system on how they're going to be paying communities back. Before, the fire departments would respond to brush fires. They would then be reimbursed by BC Wildfire Service. Their expenditures went through the roof back in whenever it was that there was multiple fires, and so they tried to tighten up their pay structure. Now they're not paying anybody unless you get a task number. So we go onto an incident outside of our jurisdiction, like that, the cliff jumping area. That first fire that we went to, that grew, we got reimbursed for that one. And that was, okay, yeah, as I was bothering them, yeah, okay, we'll give you this one. Okay. Well, we went back there 2 or 3 times. called for a task number, they didn't give it, they didn't give it, they didn't give it, they didn't give it, then their crews showed up on scene. We handed over the scene to them and then we left and I went and I submitted, okay, well, we spent however many hours and this here on the bill. Denied on all of those. So they have, it's a challenge. I know they're kind of trying to hold their pennies, it seems. And so we're having to make some adjustments on, do we go or do we not go? Where do we draw the line on spending money versus like in the response, because the village is bearing the cost of the response, or not, and waiting for that task number. So currently in discussions with them, but I'm pretty happy with the Fire Smart steps that we've taken. 3 of our members, myself and 2 others, have taken the Fire Smart course, local Fire Smart representative course. And then with this UBC CRI grant funding, that'll get us a coordinator, this is all coming out of that CWPP report of what we need. That will start more community functions. It'll give basically an employee to the village throughout the spring and summer to organize events, organize community days, do home inspections, do this and that, and get the fire smarting, which really is our best defense here. With regard to wildfire. Yeah, and then there's public education, like I spoke about, the scouts, the school, community groups, fire smart education, the commercial, public, multi-residential inspections coming up. And all of these things actually also, not only are they legislated, but they play into our underwriter survey, which gives us our home insurance benefits as well. So I've done a lot of looking into the fire underwriters survey with regards to what actually gives us our rating. And it's a collaboration of all of these things. It takes into account our infrastructure, it's 40%, like our waterworks is 40% of the formula. 40% is fire department, and then 20% is what we have here as far as vulnerabilities, the type of building construction, we don't have high rises, we don't have this and that. So 20% is basically the community infrastructure. And then narrowing that down, it goes to training, which we've upkept, records, public education, inspections, maintenance, and gear and trucks. So without getting into a budget meeting, the trucks come in, they're the weakest link. So that's my report. Happy to field any questions.
Thank you for that. How much time do you think we have on the truck?
So we have 2 engines. The fire underwriter survey will give 100% coverage. And again, like I said, 40% of our rating is due to our infrastructure, our waterworks. Do we have fire hydrants? Do we have this and that? 20% is the buildings and 40% is the fire department. So of the 40%, that's the fire department. The fire trucks are rated as having a 15-year lifespan. And for that, you get 100% coverage for that truck for 15 years. After that, they give you a 5-year kind of buffer that it can be used as a backup truck. Like if you have another one and that one breaks down or it's got to go for servicing, you can use that 16 to 20-year-old truck to fill in. And then after that, there's absolutely no value in having that truck. One of our trucks is a 2000, so it's 23 years old now. It's worthless as far as the FUS is considered. And our newest truck is a 2010. It's 13 years. So in 2 years, our newest truck will be up for renewal. So there's, yeah, that's where we're at on the trucks. It's, been kicked down the road a few times, so, we're needing a truck.
And the trucks compose what proportion of that 40%?
That's, so. Plus, they haven't broken that down. They just broke it down in the big chunks that I saw, that I explained, sorry. There is like 18 different components, so I couldn't tell you exactly. I even went to my, okay, what's the difference of having a fire department versus not? So I looked at the cost of my house insurance, and another one of our firefighters looked at the cost of her house insurance and then compared it to people that we know in like Ocean Point and Strachan Point, and it's a huge variance for the actual cost, but I don't have that number. When we went asking our insurance providers, they said, well, I don't, like the regular insurance agent that you talk to, I don't know that, like head office just gives us a number and we type it in. So they couldn't give us. We asked Fire Underwriter Survey what the discount is and that, and they go, we don't make the discount, we make the formula. So, and then the different agencies gives you the formula. So it's kind of a running around in circles to try to get exactly what each little line item is.
Sounds like a typical insurance company underwriter's problem.
Yes.
Yeah. Can I just ask one other question?
Sure.
On the 17,000 for the call outs on the MVAs, is that a break even or is that there a little surplus in there or is that costing? How does that stack up?
I can get those numbers. When I was told about this meeting, I wasn't able to get the hours that went into that.
Right.
For the calls. So I can talk to Joe and try to get the hours of the guys, and then we can see where that's at.
All right, any other questions?
It's a quick question. Fire Smart's going to be encouraging us to get rid of shrubbery and stuff around the edge of the houses and getting rid of our dry green waste. So our green waste contract is actually coming up, so we're probably going to need to be aware of that. I don't know if it's going to increase, as there's more awareness, there may be more.
Like you're talking disposing of green waste as people trim it.
Yeah.
The actual disposing, I don't know how that will factor in with, I know Fire Smart, they'll have chip ups, they'll have this and that, and it's basically to clean up the properties and how that's disposed of or what agency we use.
Just an awareness that I wanted to raise.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, we'll move to 10A2, and that's the council meeting calendar, and over to you. Awesome. Marina. Wonderful.
Okay, I assume council had a chance to review the report that I presented and to council has any questions.
Maybe you can just give us the highlights, and the highlights, as I understand it, was the moving to one council meeting and two council of the wholes.
Yes, so with having per month, so having that decision, it's as it stated, so some of the pros would be with that is council has a chance for an in-depth discussion that does not need to happen at the regular council meeting, such as budgets and budget versus actual and AP checklisting. Some too, that would bring down the business of a regular council meeting. To have these discussions in a committee of the whole meeting. And having two meetings a month for council, for the committee of the whole, just to mention, just to note that you do not need to have a council resolution to cancel a meeting. So it's just there in case you need to have two committee of the whole meetings. That if need be.
So if there was business, we wouldn't have to cancel.
Yeah.
So do I understand the three options correctly? We've got option one is one council meeting, one committee of the whole, separated by 2 weeks. Kind of similar to what we have, except substituting a committee of the whole for one of the council meetings. Option 2 and 3 are similar, except they're inverses of each other. One has 2 regular council meetings and a committee of the whole, and the other one has the inverse. Is that about right?
Yep.
Yep.
Blackwell.
Yeah, if I could just add to what Ms. Blagadaroff is telling you. By increasing the number of committee of the whole meetings, which as council is aware is where the meat and potatoes of this stuff is done. So for example, the 2 reports that you just received are normally in the committee of the whole. It's unusual to have these at a formal council meeting. By having 2 in a month, it means that your meetings are going to be shorter. So rather than have marathon meetings for 4 hours long, in theory, if you have more committee of the wholes, you'd be able to cover more ground for one, but you'll also maybe as well be able to shorten up your meetings. The purpose of that then is that all the heavy lifting is done, the committee of the whole, and at council, it's basically confirming the decisions of the committee of the whole. It's not to sort of re-prosecute or reopen or rediscuss the committee of the whole. It's for ratification of the committee's work. So as has just been said, the benefit of having 2 is they are placeholders. If one is not needed, it's easy enough to cancel, but they're there for council's use if you need them.
So follow-up question. Committee of the whole minutes are approved not in the subsequent council meeting, if there is one, but at a next committee of the whole meeting.
Correct.
So just a procedural question I have is, if you had a council meeting that followed a committee of the whole meeting and you wanted to act on a recommendation, yet you do not have minutes that are approved, what are you acting on in terms of recommendations? Essentially unapproved minutes as you go forward into that council meeting?
They're only recommendations, aren't they?
So if I could, so bear in mind that these committee meetings are committees of council. So council has the ability to choose to act on any matters that were raised in committee of the whole. In fact, it's quite common. Things is a bit of a heavy sledding, but it's quite common to have a committee of the whole prefacing a council meeting on the same day. So committee of the whole, let's say from 4 till 6, council from 6 to 8 sort of thing. So in that scenario, the matters that need to come forward to council can and do and are ratified at council. So council, it has the authority to pick and choose what it acts on at the formal council meeting. Nothing, because it's a committee meeting, it's these decisions of council are not formal. They're only recommendations to council. The formal meeting of council.
So you're recommending option 3?
If I could. My suggestion is yes, pilot this for a period of time, see how it fits. If it's working for council, great. If after some number of months, council feels it doesn't quite suit, then we can modify as needed.
All right.
So we are to, so we publish the calendar, but we can review it. Once we publish it, it's not written in stone for the year.
For the committee of the whole meeting.
Only the CO, only the council.
Not the council.
Mr. Blackwell.
Council meetings are in place.
Yeah,
Through the chair, Mr. Blackwell.
thank you. If I could, there's 2 things. So the council meetings can always be changed by council, but it takes a formal resolution of council to change them. Committee of the whole meetings are not formal meetings of council and can be canceled at any time. Should there not be a need to have committee meetings. So if council doesn't like the structure with a committee, with formal council meetings through as established in that calendar, it can revisit that month 1, month 2, month 5, and rewrite what that will be via resolution.
And in practice, do you end up having counselors that don't show up to various committees of the whole and there's no requirement to show up, or what? How does that unfold?
So through you, yes. It's problematic if counselors don't show up to committee of the whole meetings because that's where the heavy lifting is done. They're not required to, they're not under the council members are not under the same standard as in terms of missing meetings as they are with the council meeting. But they're not required to attend these things, and I guess there's no real problem so long as they feel that they can catch up on the items covered in a committee of the whole meeting. That said, there are going to be some committee of the whole meetings that are going to be complicated and complex, and it'll be very difficult for them to catch up. So there's.
One point of clarity, but the committee still has to have a quorum.
Correct.
And the quorum is a quorum of council.
Yes.
And what would be the procedure for canceling a committee of the whole meeting? Does that require a vote? And how is that done?
Through you, I don't not know. Actually, I can't answer that with certainty. Maybe our deputy corporate officer can answer that one.
It's
If you know,
to
we'll have to get back to you
I'll
on it.
defer that and get back to us.
Thank you.
how's that processing?
So the reason you put option 3 forward is because you feel that we're behind and that an extra meeting per month instead of 2 we have now, we'll have 3. And moving them into a committee as a whole, where it's more casual discussion that hopefully we're going to get more accomplished. We get into the council meeting and it's simply approving or not ratifying.
Yeah, so if I could, thank you. So I get, it's certainly to catch up on some of the work, but it's also the recognition that council sitting from 6 p.m. till 10 or 10:30 sometimes at night. There's a law of diminishing returns. People get tired. And so the efficacy starts to maybe, challenging for council as council gets deeper and deeper into these complicated agendas. So, having shorter meetings where people feel fresher and better able to engage as they would like to is perhaps better practice.
Okay, Councillor Abbott.
One concern I have with Mr. Ross, and just thinking back on previous experience, we get statutory deadlines and multiple readings of a bylaw change, these kind of things. And if you only meet council only meets once a month, that can really protract out that whole process. So you end up having special meetings. And I'm not adverse to having special meetings, but the problem is when special meetings then get stuff added to the agenda and become more than one topic meeting, then the whole thing just starts to snowball. So have you considered that, your opinion on that?
Thank you through you. So yes, that can be an issue. The reality is there's no perfect formula. And whatever formula is established can change over time. So if there's a bottleneck of work, having in like early in the year, it's beneficial having more committee of the whole meetings. As the work maybe shifts, it slows down in August, September, maybe they're not so required so often. If there are pressing bylaw adoption issues that are presenting themselves, that formula doesn't work as well. So it's about trying to find some balance. And I would argue the benefit is applying some flexibility based on the workload. And as I say, test drive it. If the structure doesn't work, then.
I just think people should be aware with one council meeting in a month, we will be having special.
Councillor Broughton.
I would assume that there's nothing to preclude the beginning of a committee of the whole being designated as a special council meeting if it's posted as such. Is that true?
Thank you. If the proper notification procedures are followed, that's absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the same as any other special.
So to my mind, we have placeholders for 3 different Tuesdays and hopefully would use 2 of those, but potentially would use 3. But it wouldn't be the matter of, trying to get a time to have a special council meeting, something like that. It would be those times that have been set aside. And again, using the first 10 minutes of a committee of the whole to have a special council meeting to deal with some topic, a single topic perhaps, so hopefully.
We have a motion. Option 3. Okay, second.
Option 3.
I'll second. Okay, all in favor?
We got some more discussion here. I just wanted to add to Neville's point.
Okay.
If we're,
Councillor Ryder.
if we're, it seems to me if we're gonna be going to 3 meetings a month, that mindful that, you know, we might end up with 4 or more, that option 2 would be better. I mean, my observation of the previous council is that committees of the whole were called as needed. And that one had 2 council meetings a month. I don't see any requirement at this time to lock this in. We're required to publish our meeting schedule, not our committee of the whole schedule. I guess the question I'm asking is, what's the argument for not continuing with the schedule we have and calling committees of the whole as we need them? We're not required to lock in on committees of the whole at this time.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell, if you can answer that question, then we're going to go around the table and then we'll call the question.
Sure. Council shouldn't be relying on formal council meetings like it does. It's inappropriate. It's conflating committee work with council work. Proper, well-run systems would look like well-attended, well-engaged committee of the whole meetings that typically will last a fair amount of time. They're long, relatively speaking. Council meetings, on the other hand, should just be short, 1.5 hours maximum. They're basically endorsing, formalizing the work of council. The body of work that council has to contend with needs to be done, is best done at the committee of the whole structure, where it's informal. It's more informal. It's less formal than a council meeting. It allows for more interaction and sort of engagement to work through the issues. And it's working through the issues that is where the rubber meets the road. So it's better to have more committee, in my opinion, my experience, it's better to have more committee of the whole meetings, as many as needed, relatively speaking. Because the council meetings is, as I say, just endorsing what's been done. So you shouldn't have to meet more frequently than once a month.
In a perfect world.
Councillor.
I sort of like the idea of one committee of the whole, one council meeting with a special council meeting piggybacked onto a committee of the whole, as Councillor Broughton suggested, with the flexible option of adding a committee of the whole meeting. I hear your suggestion. I'm just not confident from what we have experienced that these are going to be short meetings. And what I see is now 3 weeks in a row of 4 to 6 hours of exhaustion that may not be productive, where we can try one of each and add 2 either or on either end. Just my thoughts on that.
Okay, Councillor Abbott.
Yes, I'm hearing you saying option 1, are you?
Option 1 with the ability to add a special meeting to the front end of a committee of the whole and add a committee of the whole ad hoc as necessary, without locking in. There's infrastructure committee meeting, Lions Bay Beach Park committee, and you have climate action task force, I have the Northwest Standing Committee on Substance Use. It's too much.
Okay, Councillor Abbott.
So I like the suggestion of, well, first of all, we need to have some committee involvement meeting. We've got to find a better way to get to some real issues. I like the suggestion that you can actually break out into a special meeting to approve something. That alleviates that fear of me thinking there's going to be special meetings called all the time. So I'm okay with that. Coming into this, I was on option 2. But I'm fairly flexible. But I recognize what you're saying, Jamie, just how firm is that your preference?
Pretty firm.
All right, I'll call a question on option 3. All in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion defeated. Any other recommendations then?
Jamie, take your shots.
I would move that we take option 1 with a friendly amendment that there's flexibility to add a committee of the whole and or special council meeting ad hoc as necessary.
Sorry, just to clarify, to make the committee of the whole that's scheduled also a special concurrently a special meeting if and when needed.
And or if there is a special meeting that's necessary or another committee of the whole is necessary, just leave that third time slot as flexible and not have it locked in.
So we're gonna plan on every Tuesday, we're going to schedule meetings for two, that's what you're saying?
Correct.
Mr. Blackwell, can you, since I'm a little colorblind, just outline option one?
I'm colorblind.
And so option one
No help. Could I just,
is a
Through the chair?
regular council meeting on the Tuesday. and
through the chair, through the chair,
Trying to clarify.
Counselor Broughton is speaking.
through the chair. My understanding, how is this, I'm not clear whether this, I see how it's different from option three. Option three, we were canceling a meeting, and this option is to add a meeting. And so the effect is the same, but I just think in terms of the difficulty that we often have finding a time for a meeting that we would be better to let that look, but perhaps that ship has sailed.
If I could just comment to that.
It's the same effect.
Because essentially
That's how you do it.
we find a distinct important date that we need to come together
Mhm.
as opposed to having something scheduled that the whole gets filled and we're meeting repetitively. It's overwhelming. It's a lot. I would rather add two than look at taking away.
Well, to be clear, you're recommending option one, and I mean, the ability to add a special council meeting into the same slot as the committee of the whole, that's not something we need to decide now.
That's simple.
That doesn't need to be added as an amendment. It's simply option one clean, right?
But we're gonna block out Tuesdays on the calendar throughout the year, so if we do always, we don't have other committees filling up Tuesdays. That's what we're saying.
Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you. So just for clarification, what we must post is the council agenda.
Right.
Or calendar. What we should post for transparency are all of the committee meetings that the municipality facilitates, not just committee of the whole. So to the extent that we can identify those as well, we should be recognizing that things change.
So essentially, you're putting forward option one.
Yes.
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. We'll move to item 10B2, Lions Bay Beach Park, and we'll move over to Councillor Cunliffe and Councillor Broughton.
There is a single page report in the agenda, which is very similar to previous weeks, previous council meetings. Beach Park committee is moving ahead very successfully. There's been multiple meetings in the last several weeks to work through operationalizing the motions, the resolutions that council passed on November the 9th, I believe it was. So we're working through operationalizing the contracts, and we met with village lawyer I believe it was a week and a half ago, or last week, I should say, and to ensure that we're moving forward in the best possible way for the village, safest way for the village, most effective way. And we're going to be meeting with the committee will be meeting tomorrow night.
Hold on for a second. Carl, can you take it outside, please? Thank you. All right.
Okay, so there is a meeting tomorrow night in terms of we're looking at the construction management contract. And there will be discussion about that, and as soon as there's information to share, that will be shared. So the committee is anxious to get more information out as quickly as possible, but some of them we're working with sort of detailed work to to move to construction, but with the goal and the expectation that we will have an art opening on July the 1st of 2024.
Great. Anything further, Councillor Cunliffe?
No, unfortunately, I stepped out of the last meeting,
Yeah,
but thank you
sorry.
for the update. And
Okay.
I will give my regrets now. I have our standing committee tomorrow evening, but I'll get an update.
The question here. I see a comptroller is mentioned. Is that meant to be controller or is there some change here that's occurred? Under key information, paragraph 4. In your report.
I think that probably is a typo. It means controller.
Yes, it's control. I'm not sure.
There is an alternate.
That was taken from yeah, it's control.
Where the controller is used as an alternate for control in some.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
So is this
Staff
intended to
including
be-
the C, it should be the controller.
All right, thank you.
You can pull out the P.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Abbott?
Yeah. Question, probably this, directed it to CIO. I said this in the last meeting, and I have great concern about this timeline of this project. And this is the last council meeting. And the regional plan was to break ground early in January. And I guess tomorrow night, do you have a clear contracting strategy tomorrow night that's going to be come out of that meeting for a special meeting for council to get together to give these contracts? Because
Blackwell.
Yeah, thank you. Through you to council, so the answer is yes. The committee has been working, key members of the committee working partially in conjunction, largely in conjunction with myself, with our legal counsel to ensure that what is being done is completely defensible. And so that behind the scenes work is being done and should be completed by the end of the week. So that is as of yesterday. Now, the timeline, I can't really go into that to tell you whether it can be done on time. Having been in construction for many years, I would say this is a pretty straightforward project. I can't imagine how it could possibly take any longer than the schedule that's been set out. Given the houses that I've built within, not completed, but built within that period of time. So there's no reason for me to be concerned at this point that the timeline won't be met. That's assuming that there are no surprises once construction starts happening. In other words, excavating and finding things that you rather not know are there,
well,
et cetera.
we both know there's always going to be surprises. My concern is not the construction durations, it's the procurement cycle sitting where we are. But I guess I'll wait to hear on it tomorrow. Because I'm giving it a lot of thought. From what I've heard, I don't see a path to get there. But anyway. I think there is a path, but I'm not sure it's the one you guys are going down. Anyway.
Maybe you can outline how that, the meeting with the lawyers went, whether it was clear and, or whether you see issues that will arise.
Through you, it was a very comprehensive discussion, very detailed, very technical from a legal and contractual basis. As far as I'm concerned, all of the question marks were erased. It was a very clear path forward, very defensible, and that is what is being undertaken right now. So the indication from our legal counsel is that they will have completed their work by the end of the week. And that is about, so we're looking for down retrieval, making it happen. Can't think of the word.
May I suggest perhaps go to the meeting tomorrow night, Councillor Abbott, and maybe they can speak to it in a little bit more detail. Would that, do you think that'd be helpful?
Yeah, through you, yes, I would encourage anyone that's interested to attend and listen in on the discussion.
Okay, anything further?
It will be will be on Zoom other than a closed segment. Yeah.
Okay, we'll move to item number 12, bylaws, and the fees bylaw number 497, 2016 amendment bylaw 6/31/2023, and the recommendation is the fees bylaw number 497, 216 amendment bylaw 6/31/2023 be introduced and read first and second and third time. We have a motion. Okay, second. Discussion. Call a question. All in favor?
Sorry, I was just, yeah, I'll do some discussion.
Okay.
Just trying to catch up, so page we on that.
119.
So you've answered now. Okay. Actually, I need to find one because I can remember what my question was. Carl, the intention of this seems to be to give you some flexibility to issue extraordinary vehicle permits for construction activities.
Correct.
My concern is the clause that we're now changing council to you to have the authority was not around construction extraordinary vehicles. To what I've seen on previous council, what it was about residents parking trailers, and that's the only kind of situation councils dealt with over the years, in my knowledge. Would it not make more sense to make two clauses? One that deals with construction, which gives you this authority, and the one that's where it's been used before, which is residents concerned about another resident having a horse trailer in one case and so on, still rests with council. Because I think you made this something that it wasn't intended to be written.
Yeah, I mean, it is certainly more of a need for construction trailers to be placed on the highway or elsewhere on village property more quickly than the 2 weeks that it might take or more for council to meet again to resolve it. So the initial driver was that also comes up for non-construction related trailers, whether it's a moving trailer or a one-time use for, storing the guy's racing car, or again, that needs a quicker answer than 2 weeks. So that's why they're both there. The public works manager or whoever it is that's adjudicating this would be following bylaws, in this case, the traffic and parking bylaw, which lays out what the requirements are. So, who does it doesn't really change what would be done. If somebody needs an exception to what's laid out in the bylaw, then they would have to get that from council. And then they'd have to wait their time if it's 2 weeks or for example, now it would be almost 5 weeks until the next council meeting for them to get a response. So this is purely to be able to react quicker in cases where a quicker action is needed.
Mr. Blackwell.
If I could just add to that, it's not actually my experience, again, I can only speak in that context. It's not normal for council to issue permits. That permits are usually a staff function. It's council's role to set the bylaw that sets out how permits are issued. Yeah.
So to Neville's point, I mean, I don't think we're talking about council issuing permits. I think we're allowing council to review this. It also makes sense to me if it's aimed at primarily at construction to have that in the public work manager's bailiwick. But I can't imagine what possible rush there would be on other situations if we're having 2 or even more meetings a month. I would like to see that remain at the board level. That would be my inclination. And just to be clear, we're talking basically about Schedule 5, essentially. Nothing more.
That's
right?
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only the red line and strike that you see there. I just noticed, just point out, the proposed wording in the bylaw amendment is correct, but the red line on page 13 of the fees bylaw, I don't know what it is in the package. The word parking is Thanks. The word parking is struck out. It shouldn't be struck out. It should be monthly fee for is the only struck out part.
All right, any other comments by councilors? Councillor Cunliffe?
I would just say that I recall many discussions at the last council table about RVs and trailers and so forth parked on the street, and I would be happy to have staff field those and have the exceptions come to council. So.
All right, I'll raise your hand, please, if you want to speak. You've already spoke once, have you, Councillor Abbott? Okay, I'm fully on board. Leave the operational options to the staff, and I'd prefer not to be discussing here at the council table, and just takes up more time. We can see that our council meetings are running overtime as it is, so I would be all for this. Councillor Abbott?
I'm trying to understand what you see as the exception. Why would anything come to council? You either, unless they objected to your decision, if you didn't grant.
Certainly, and that's the option under most bylaws. If somebody doesn't like the staff interpretation of existing rules, or if they are asking for an exception to the rule for permanent parking of an oversized trailer, for example, that is not allowed under the traffic and parking bylaw, and they want an exception. That would, the staff answer would be no. And if they didn't like that answer, they would have to come to council anyway. But they would do that not as a result of this fees bylaw. They would do that as a result of other enactments.
Okay.
I just want to understand. Sorry. This is where the authority to park a trailer on a monthly fee, an oversized trailer.
This is just the fee and how it gets adjudicated.
The allowance to park is in the specific instance for this Schedule 5 fee. That's the parking bylaw.
The trailer parking bylaw doesn't say comes to council.
But that's the rule. And if somebody doesn't like the rule, they have to ask council to vary it.
By changing the fee, have the authority to go about.
No, only as allowed.
But you adjudicate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll call a question. All those in favor? Opposed?
Yeah.
Opposed. Carried. Okay, correspondence over to you, Councillor Abbott.
One second.
Sorry, just to circle back, did I need to ask to have my opposition recorded?
Yes. Sparkle.
Thank you. Yeah, if you, you could state that you wish to have recorded, yes.
Yes, I
It's my
understand.
understanding.
Thank you.
It's my understanding.
Yeah, sure, keep ahead with the recording, however, I'm happy for yours to record, however,
Same for me.
that has to be just recorded. Stand by, however.
Okay, Councillor Abbott, correspondence?
Yeah, so we only have 3 pieces of correspondence. Go through these really quickly. And then we can read the actions. The first one was about the private members zone 273. And I guess we can all read that.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Julian, yeah.
Yeah. We'll read that and take an opinion. I don't think it's an action that we should be entertaining at all. The second one is about a nomination for the award. And I think everyone should have a look at that, and more means that if we think of someone looking forward. I don't think that's a council function either. And then the third one is Elizabeth Shane Kane saying to us that that I think council's dealing with in other places. I don't know if we need to discussion here now. I don't know if there's any actions come out as part of correspondence that there are certain actions in there that may affect other things we do.
If I could.
Yeah.
Suggestion for council's consideration over the Christmas break, which you some number of weeks. For agenda efficiency, my recommendation is not to read out all of the correspondence. That if you include it on the agenda, it's received by virtue of the fact the agenda is being adopted. And council's given the option to oh God, here I go again, to pull out of that correspondence, any particular correspondence council may wish to have addressed specifically. That's normally how it's done, and if it ensures that those matters that are important to any given member of council get addressed at the council table, and all those that just need to be received, acknowledged, can be done so expediently.
All right, thank you for that.
Can I say something on the correspondence? I mean, we addressed this earlier. There's a structural issue that's preventing residents' correspondence from efficiently making it into the agenda package. That's something that must be addressed. But it's no secret here that there has been at least some resident correspondence that's been culled. I am horrified by that. I know which piece of correspondence that is. And this was discussed when we had a municipal advisor and we had terms of vexatiousness and so on thrown in there. I would rather have in the interest of openness and letting residents have their voices heard and their letters published and responses, if that's the case, I would rather have a little more messy and a little less censorship. That is my proclivity here.
Can I give some feedback? I think we've got a corporate officer who has got a lot of experience, and I think he's done a fabulous job to date. We've got provincial advisors who have made recommendations, and we've seen tonight that we called 10C 1, 2, 3, and 4, and those were provincial corporate governance recommendations. I think we've got to start following the recommendations of our corporate officer and also the provincial advisors. We keep meddling in the details here, and we're getting off track on the business of the village, and it's just not getting done. You know, these 4.5-hour meetings, here we are, recommendations from our provincial advisors. They've been outlined in multiple letters, and we haven't been able to adopt their recommendations.
So is this as per correspondence here right now?
That's part of the correspondence. That was part of the correspondence.
Didn't sound like it. Yeah.
Yeah, directly related. And I encourage all the residents to read the provincial letters.
10C 1, how is that related?
All right.
I see the connection.
And the corporate officer, if he made a call to call letters, I think we've got to give him that right. He's doing it in the best interest of the village. He's not doing that to play favorites between one of us at the table here, which is the inference. Councillor Abbott.
Not at all.
I just want to address that. We have existing policies and procedures. And I get we all going to change them, and we're going to want to change them. There's going to be some changes. We need to do that as a group. We need to do that. And some of us are going to lean back on what we've seen and done in the past. That's part of the equation. That's what I'm glad you're not doing it. The reason we pulled the IS for this out of the agenda tonight is so we can get to the business of council, which is enclosed, which we want to get to, and these things can be dealt with at the appropriate time and place. I'm not trying to stop us from doing it. Let's just do it in the right environment. That's what I'm doing. None of the reasons. So I would say something more, and hope we can get to close and deal with those two other matters.
Any other comments before we move on? Okay, no, new business.
Could I just add an item coming out of the presentation at the beginning of the meeting? I'm wondering if it would be appropriate to ask the mayor to send letters of appreciation to the members of the Historical Society, including the retired chair, Tony Cox. So I'd be
that a motion
wishing to make a motion that requests that the mayor send letters of appreciation
and second. Okay, discussion.
Do we need a motion?
I'd be happy to do that. Call the question.
Yes, excuse me. Speaking to the motion.
Yes.
I believe that I'm making the motion to give more strength to the Do we require a motion? No. No, we don't. However, I would like to make a motion because I would like to put it on record.
Okay, any other comments or call the question? No, call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we'll move to, sorry,
No, it's public.
yeah, we'll move to public comments and questions. Anyone in the gallery? Like to speak? No, okay, if we can move online, Maria. Anyone online would like to speak, please raise your hand. Okay, no questions. We have a motion to adjourn the meeting to move or to move into
Closed.
second. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, welcome back to the open portion of the meeting. Council would like to report out that council endorses the license of occupation between the BC Transportation Financing Authority and the Village of Lions Bay, and the form here too attached, updated as to the start date, and direct the CAO and mayor to execute the same. And that council waive further tendering of the project and direct staff to contract the proposal of Cove Enterprise and deliver the contemplated project to the terms of Section 4.2 of the license of occupation that is within 6 months of the commencement date as finally established at a cost of 52,000 plus contingencies up to 70,000. Okay, we have a.
And then secondly, you want to report out on.
And we'll also report out the council move to endorse the full-time position of bylaw officer and to work on a model that will come back to council with further details in the future. Okay, motion to adjourn the meeting, second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, carried.
Report.